Chapter Xuanhuan, a coffee shop bearing a girl's hopes. What to do after transmigrating into a world that seems straight out of an anime. Urgent! Need answers now! After confirming this fact, Yalin desperately wanted to run into the street and shout out the question. Unfortunately, he also knew that this was incredibly stupid. Besides attracting pitying glances as if he were mentally challenged, he'd gain nothing. Two choices lay before him: either adapt and live in this world, or act like an idiot and let the whole world know he was a transmigrator. The latter would either land him in a mental institution or get him dissected for research. As for Gome, even a child could guess that was impossible as a nearly 30-year-old pseudo-otaku. Yalin's life before his transmigration was incredibly simple: a 9-to-5 job, and in his free time, watching anime and playing games. He'd always wanted a girlfriend, never put into action. Perhaps heaven didn't want him to continue his ordinary life. Waking up one day, Yalin opened his eyes to an unfamiliar ceiling. Initially, he thought it was a hallucination, but a hard pinch confirmed its reality. Hurriedly getting up and out of bed, after repeatedly confirming, Yalin finally confirmed that he had transmigrated. He found a mirror in the room and saw that he had changed from a near 30-year-old man into a 16 or 17-year-old boy. Most crucially, upon returning to his 16-year-old self, his appearance had even been upgraded several levels, a total heartthrob straight out of a television drama. What's this? A perk of time travel? What was this? Before his time travel, Yalin often read novels, occasionally fantasizing about such things. When he discovered his fantasy had actually come true, he felt neither nervous nor excited, nor did he experience any fear. His first instinct was to check if he had any cheats or superpowers. Protagonists in time travel stories have cheat. That's a basic trope in novels and anime. Now that he was a time traveler himself, how could he not have a cheat to rely on? It turned out this line of thinking was perfectly correct. After a series of tests, he really did find a system within himself. By focusing his mind and silently thinking system, a translucent template projection would appear before him. Based on the information provided by the template projection, Yalin quickly understood the system's function, but precisely because of this, he admitted he felt immense pressure. The system's name was the Salvation System. As the name implies, this was a system designed for salvation. Yalin certainly had no clue how this system appeared, but he was now its master, and in the future, the system would assist him in his growth. The price, however, was to complete the tasks assigned by the system. Upon closer inspection of the system, it could be confirmed that it was divided into two main categories: life and combat. The life category was already active, while the combat category was grayed out, meaning it was not yet unlocked. Since it's not open, let's ignore it for now. Let's focus on this life category. This life category looks quite interesting. Under this main category, there are a total of 7 subcategories: literature, mathematics, engineering, home economics, music, art, and sports. Each subcategory has even finer divisions. Take the literature category for example. Under literature, Yalin has already opened the language branch. Under the language branch, there are even more detailed options. For instance, Yalin has currently opened Chinese, Japan, English. Apart from these, all other category branches are grayed out, meaning the system hasn't given Yalin any other bonuses besides language. It's worth mentioning that, just like playing a game, all the opened category options are displayed numerically, making it very intuitive. Yalin clearly saw that his Chinese proficiency was at 100 points, Japanese at 100 points, and English at 30 points beginner level. It's understandable that his Chinese is at 100 points as his native language, and 30 points for English due to standardized testing and education, but 100 points in Japanese. What's going on? As a pseudo-otaku, Yalin enjoys anime, but is not at the level where he can watch new anime without subtitles. He can't understand the plot without them, but now his Japanese proficiency is suddenly at 100 points. Mastery level. What's happening? Well, this should be considered a bonus from the system. After all, he's currently in a city where Japanese is spoken. The system placed him here. It can't leave him completely lost and unable to do anything, right? Otherwise, how would he complete his mission? The system's interface for saving the system is simple and intuitive. Above the life cat, besides the options Yalin has opened, the only thing left is the personal attributes panel. Since it's not that important, we'll discuss it later. For now, what we really need to introduce is the mission assigned by this system for saving it. Save the coffee shop. Mission objective: earn 100 million island coins within 3 months. Mission reward system: lottery 23. System prompt: if you cannot earn enough island coins within 3 months, the coffee shop carrying the girl's hopes will be auctioned off, and the girl's hopes will be shattered. Please work hard to complete the mission and save the girl in distress. This was the mission the system gave Yalin, and it was also a mission that made him want to complain. To say nothing else, just earning 100 million island coins in 3 months made him feel incredibly frustrated. What the hell are island coins? 100 million. That sounds like a lot. What good is a system that only gives me a language option? If I were that good at making money, I wouldn't have been stuck in that 9-to-5 dead-end job in the first place. Fine, complaining aside, this mission still needs careful consideration. Especially the phrase carrying the girl's hopes, which made Yalin quite concerned. Who is this girl? Why is a coffee shop the girl's hope? After Yalin figured all this out, he finally understood his situation, which led to his previous inner outburst. Could this actually be a world that resembles an anime? Otherwise, how else would you explain a girl named Chino Kafu? And what's the deal with this cafe called Rabbit House? Is this an anime world? No, that's not it. While it looks like an anime world, This world is completely different from the Annie world Li Yalin knew. If Li Yalin remembers correctly, Chino Kafu should be from an anime he watched before he transmigrated, and she's one of the main heroines. He remembered being utterly charmed by her back then, thinking that if he could have a younger sister like her, he would have no regrets in life. As it turns out, his wish from back then actually came true, while not Chino's real older brother. His current identity is almost the same as an older brother. That's right, Li Yalin, who was forcibly transmigrated by the system, wasn't directly dropped into this world. Instead, he was given a suitable identity, the son of a friend of Chino's father, temporarily staying at China's house to prepare for transferring to a school in this city. It sounds a bit complicated, but this identity has given Li Yalin a lot of convenience. At least he doesn't have to explain his origins. And he even has an ID card and bank card, saving him a lot of trouble. Of course, that's not the point. What truly matters is that while Chino is from an anime Li Yalin knows, the reality is drastically different from what he knows in the anime. The Rabbit House Cafe should be located in a fitte city like this one. Most importantly, the Kafu family in the anime has no debt. In reality, the plot takes a sharp turn. Chino's father, Crow, disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a debt of 100 million yen. Chino, a 13-year-old girl, is the one shouldering this debt. Such a massive debt is enough to crush Chino. It's not just because she's a child. Even an adult would struggle to bear it. Yet, racking her brains to repay the debt, even knowing the chances are slim, she hasn't given up. What a strong child. Yalin-san, don't you like the breakfast? Chino-ko, 13 years old, in the prime of her youth, and all the household chores including this morning's breakfast, all done by her own hands. For Chino, even without the debt, she's always done all the housework, so it's second nature. But Li Yalin's sympathetic gaze makes her extremely uncomfortable. I have a feeling that this Aaron-san, who showed up at our doorstep a few days ago with Dad's letter, and is theoretically going to be staying with us for the next 2 years, is a rather peculiar young man. Chino wasn't exactly without reservations towards strangers, but after confirming Li Aaron's identity, she still let him stay. She wasn't even sure why she made that decision. It's like we're about to lose our home. Chino shook her head, pushing aside her troubled thoughts. She couldn't afford to think too much about it. Right now, the most important thing was to desperately try and save their home, even though she herself didn't know what she should be doing. No, the bread was delicious, and the coffee was good too. I was just thinking about what I should do. Feeling Chino's quizzical gaze, Lirin shook his head slightly, regaining his composure. He knew that now was not the time for idle thoughts. Upon seeing the system's assigned task and understanding its contents, he had already made his decision. He accepted the mission. The coffee shop, carrying Chino's hopes, absolutely could not be abandoned. I don't know exactly what to do, but we walk the path as we find it, and solutions come with thought. Since he's in this world, there must be a reason for his arrival, so let him strive towards saving the coffee shop and saving Chino as his goal. Chapter worth the first step on the path of creation. Unfortunately, Li Yalin hasn't known Chino for long. The fact that she's progressed from calling him Li-san to Yalin-san is already a significant achievement. To go further, sadly. Besides, Chino is naturally somewhat awkward in social situations and isn't good at expressing her feelings, so she doesn't speak much. After receiving Li Yalin's response, a simple nod from her is already considered quite good. Chino isn't good at socializing, and Li Yalin isn't exactly an extrovert. Under these circumstances, their breakfast was eaten in near silence. After finishing breakfast and washing the dishes, Chino went downstairs as usual to tend to the coffee shop. During the off-season, the Rabbit House Cafe remained open all day, its operation the sole source of income for the Coco family. After Chino's father, Rama Kafu, disappeared outwardly at least, Chino seemed to be the only one left. Yes, outwardly it appeared so, but in reality, more than just Chino and Li Yalin lived in that house. To be precise, the household also included a female, adorable, and fluffy Angora rabbit. Li Yalin frequently saw her around the Kafu house during her stay. But unfortunately, Tippy had been listless recently, as if suffering from a serious illness. If she were just an ordinary Angora rabbit, Li Yalin might have suggested taking her to a veterinary clinic. However, her true identity wasn't so simple. If the setting hadn't changed, she should actually be Chino's grandfather. While not entirely certain, and logically speak, a human transforming into a rabbit is incredibly magical, but as a time traveler, could Li Yalin not accept such a premise? It could be further inferred that Tippy's recent listlessness was related to the family's debt. After all, the cafe not only embodied Chino's dreams but also represented Tippy's everything. With the sudden weight of debt, the possibility of the cafe no longer belonging to them loomed large. It would be strange if Tippy could accept such a blow. In a certain sense, Tippy, the grandfather, had less resilience than his granddaughter, Chino, of course. All of this was just Li Yalin's conjecture. He hadn't yet verified it. The immediate priority wasn't pondering magic, but rather figuring out how to earn 100 million island coins. For an ordinary family, this is an absolute fortune. Li Yalin, a former office worker whose only hobby was collecting anime and manga, wondered how he could possibly earn 100 million. It seemed like an impossible task, but after careful research, Li Yalin discovered that it might not be as impossible as it seemed. Over the past few days, he had thoroughly researched this world online and made some exciting discoveries. This world was both Earth and not Earth. It was a world strikingly similar to, yet distinctly different from, the one Li Yalin had previously lived in. Few nations in this world could be called hegemons, but the China Empire, locate, was definitely one. In fact, the only nation that could rival Thetai's empire was the United States of America. On the other side of the globe, these two superpowers had long been locked in a struggle for dominance, even engaging in several major wars before finally achieving a fragile peace 10 years ago. Although peace reigned now, the wars had erased Japan from the map. After a failed alliance, the Imperial Army successfully invaded the island nation, replaced by the Japanese Special Zone. After conquering the island nation, the empire allowed the Japanese language to remain as the mother tongue of a minority ethnic group, permitted the circulation of the island's currency within the Special Zone, and preserved traditional festivals and customs while vigorously developing the economy and cultural industries. Unfortunately, perhaps due to the war's impact, despite the empire's strong support, the development of the Japanese Special Zone was slow to take off. The economy was manageable, money could solve many problems, but culture, could money really solve that? Not just the Japanese Special Zone, but the overall cultural and entertainment development of this world was far more backward than Li Yalin had ever imagined. Take Li Yalin's beloved ACGN for example. In this island nation, these cultures are only just beginning to emerge. His Japan before the time leap was a powerhouse of ACGN, Akihabara, a sacred place in the hearts of countless otaku. But in this world, Li Yalin could help but sigh in disappointment. Look at the hottest manga today. The art style is stuck in the 1960s and 70s with simplistic lines and a heavy emphasis on realism. Not only that, but the plots are incredibly cliched and stiff. After 3 chapters, you can pretty much guess how the story will end, if the manga is this bad. After watching a single episode, he even started to question the meaning of life. Yes, at this point, Li Yalin even found himself thinking that Pleasant Goat and Big Wolf wasn't so bad after all. He genuinely thought anime and manga were a complete failure and the games weren't much better. As for novels, it was even worse. The concept of light novels hadn't even been invented yet. Actually, it wasn't just the ACGN field. Even mainstream entertainment like music and movies wasn't much better. This world's technological level was incredibly advanced, surpassing even that of Li Yalin's previous world. Yet why was the cultural entertainment so underdeveloped? Was it the war's fault? It seemed that was indeed the case after all. Everyone was too busy fighting wars to focus on cultural entertainment. Right, was precisely because that an idea sparked in Li Yalin's mind. Since this world's ACGN level was so backward, could he perhaps make his fortune from this? Earning that 100 million island coins, Li Yalin might look down on this world's entertainment culture. But that didn't mean its works weren't popular. In fact, with the empire's strong support, many preferential policies for entertainment had been successively introduced, and the citizens were avid consumers of these works. Perhaps this was a good point of entry. Following the usual tropes of novels, Li Yalin should now adapt classics from his original world, creating the good things he knew into works here. With the charm of those works, let alone a mere 100 million island coins, even 10 billion, 100 billion, he could easily earn it. But the problem was that required a prerequisite. Li Yalin needed a memory like an elephant, plus the ability to replicate those excellent works. Unfortunately, Li Yalin before his transmigration was just an ordinary. After watching an anime once, he could barely remember the plot, let alone the details. Novels were the same, he had no confidence in replicating those long novels. Lacking the writing skills, manga was even more out of the question. As a complete beginner, he didn't even know what preparations were needed, let alone how to start drawing manga. So was this completely pointless? No, solving this problem wasn't difficult. The real key lay with his rescue system. With a system by his side, what was there to fear? Saving the coffee shop side quest, the first step on the creative path. Quest details: activate the art category, the painting branch of the comics option, then raise your comic skill level to proficiency. Quest reward: a refined script for the comic Cat's Eye Sisters. System prompt: after completing this quest, it is recommended to upgrade your comic skill to mastery before working on the Cat's Eye Sisters script. Unexpected rewards away. Li Yalin discovered that the comics option had lit up on his status panel, currently at beginner 0. The comics option itself provided an explanation on how to improve proficiency. Drawing one comic increases proficiency by 1 point, reaching 100 points upgrades the skill to proficiency. That's pretty straightforward. With a bit of time, raising it from beginner to proficiency shouldn't be a problem. And raising it to mastery, crap! That means I'd have to draw at least 500 comics. Quiet. I need some quiet. Alright. Let's set aside the headache-inducing matter of proficiency. Just the mission reward alone has sent a thrill through Li Yalin. Perhaps the name Cat's Eye is unfamiliar to today's youth, but for Li Yalin, it represents his childhood memories. The calm and considerate eldest sister, Xiaoli, the kind and brave second sister, Xiutong, and the lively and lovely youngest sister. These vivid images still flash in his mind. Even after seeing so many new anime and outstanding works, nothing can diminish the place Cat's Eye holds in his heart, of course. What excited Li Yalin most was that he believed the art style of Cat's Eye was perfectly suited to the current times. The current manga scene leans towards realism, with relatively simple lines. Whether a Moe style would be accepted by readers was another matter entirely. After all, being half a step ahead is genius. Being a step ahead is madness. His main goal now is to make money, so he needs to consider things from multiple angles. From every perspective, the system's mission reward could be more perfect. Since that's the case, there's nothing more to say. Is there time to level up? Well, that's what he said, once he actually started the upgrade. Li Yalin discovered that drawing manga was far more difficult than he imagined. Even with the system's help in getting him started, adding a wealth of manga drawing techniques and knowledge to his mind. Actually drawing a good manga still cost him a tremendous amount of effort. After all, this proficiency isn't something you can just doodle your way to. Each and every comic must be treated with strict seriousness, and finally, it must be acknowledged by the system before a single point of proficiency is gained. At Li Yalin's current pace, to complete a single comic, even a relatively simple character design, would take at least half an hour. This means that to reach the proficient level, he'd need at least 50 hours, and that's without eating or sleeping, working non-stop. What is this? Grinding levels in a mobile game. Chapter 003, a classic destined to surpass the original. How to earn 100 million in 3 months. This was a problem that Chino constantly worried about. Though she never complained to her father, she still bore the heavy burden, striving to protect their home. Even now, all she could do was open the shop on time each day and earn that meager turnover. Honestly, paying off the debt with this little turnover was an impossible task. After all, Rabbit House wasn't some high-class coffee shop. Not only were there few customers, but the shop's decor was also very old-fashioned and rustic. Its only merit was that it was clean and tidy. But could that really be considered an advantage? And recently, there was another mouth to feed at home, further increasing their expenses and adding to Chino's already considerable pressure. Even so, Chino still accepted this new member of the household, even if he gave off a somewhat strange vibe, always staying in his room and never going out. Who knew what he was even doing? Because he was the child of her father's friend, and her father had promised to let him stay. That alone was the reason Chino accepted him. Chino is such a good girl. Having a younger sister like her would be wonderful. Li Yalin didn't know what Chino was thinking, but he observed everything she did. For the past few days he knew exactly what his life was like. Only a few hours of sleep each night, and aside from eating, using the bathroom, and showering, every other moment was dedicated to grinding for experience points. Thankfully, he'd gotten younger after being transported to this world. Otherwise, he feared he would already look like an uncle with a face full of stubble. Under these circumstances, Chino's attitude towards Li Yalin remained unchanged. Even though he had never helped her or spoken much to her, she still delivered his meals on time every day and brought him a cup of coffee before he went to bed. Such a considerate younger sister. If she were to call me big brother, my life would be truly complete, wouldn't it? Having spent this time grinding levels, Li Yalin knew he should have a serious talk with Chino. If he didn't increase their affection and intimacy, he feared he'd grow further apart from her, even if reality wasn't a game. But before that, he really should talk about his level-up results. After days of continuous grinding, Li Yalin had successfully advanced his manga drawing skills from beginner to proficient. Because of this, his drawing techniques had significantly improved, and had also gained a lot of knowledge about manga. It has to be said, the difference between the proficient level and the beginner level is truly enormous, so much so that it even surprised Li Yalin. At the beginner level, it took him half an hour to draw a single comic, and it also consumed a considerable amount of energy. It's safe to say he powered through that period purely on willpower, but after reaching the proficient level, his drawing speed increased dramatically, jumping from half an hour per comic to 10 minutes. The energy expenditure was also far less than before. This means that the time he needs to spend advancing from proficient to expert level isn't as long as had imagined. Even more noteworthy is that, at the beginner level, no matter how much Li Yalin refined his work, it was only at the level of an amateur comic enthusiast. However, after entering the proficient level, his drawing skills instantly improved, without exaggeration. Even the comics serialized in magazines are roughly at his current level. Some lesser works aren't even as good as Li Yalin's. But if this is the proficient level, what kind of surprises await if he reaches the expert level? Li Yalin was filled with anticipation. Of course, after discussing proficiency, the real highlight follows. As Li Yalin's comic drawing level rose to proficient, he simultaneously received a system reward, the Cat's Eye Sisters Creation Script Optimized version. This creation script didn't appear out of thin air. The system directly injected it into his mind instantly. All the plot and imagery of the Cat's Eye Sisters comic were presented in Li Yalin's mind. He could replicate this work anytime, anywhere at will, and most importantly, as the system prompt indicated, this is an optimized version of the script. As an early work by manga master Sakasa Hojo, City Hunter inevitably contains some flaws and omissions. The early art style, in particular, differs significantly from the later one. The youthful, nascent style of the early chapters pales in comparison to the refined artistry of the later ones. Precisely because of this, Li Yalin found that this optimized script not only had a more compact and fulfilling plot, but also a unified art style consistent with his later work. If he were to draw this script, it would undoubtedly become a classic surpassing the original. He had absolute confidence in this. However, it was precisely for this reason that he couldn't bring this work to life at this time. He knew that, at his current level of skill, even if he were to draw City Hunter, it wouldn't meet his standards. That was something he absolutely could not tolerate. So, time to grind. At this rate, Li Yalin felt he could reach the master level within 5 days. Yes, Li Yalin had the confidence, but his frantic level grinding shocked Chino. At first, Chino hadn't paid much attention, thinking Li Yalin was simply a shut-in unwilling to leave his room. But a chance encounter revealed the appalling state of his sleep schedule. Chino's discreet observation, along with Tip's covert surveillance, revealed that Li Yalin slept only 2 or 3 hours a day at most, spending the rest of the time hunched over his desk, sketching and drawing. What is he doing? Studying. But even if he is studying, doesn't he need to be so frantic? Although it had only been a few days since Chino met Li Yalin, their relationship was more like that of a landlord and tenant. Their usual interactions consisted of only a few words exchanged, but even so, she couldn't just stand by and watch Yalin ruin his health. As a child who was rather clumsy in social interactions and not good at expressing her feelings, Chino had mustered all her courage to approach Yalin. It was precisely because of this that her arrival surprised him so much. Yalin never expected to receive Chino's attention, let alone her seeking him out. In this situation, should he show a moved expression? No, a wry smile would be more appropriate. Chapter 4. Do you like reading manga? Yalin, I don't know what you're doing, but I think you should pay more attention to your health. At the very least, you should maintain a regular sleep schedule so you can have a healthy body. Being lectured so seriously by a girl who is 3 or 4 years younger in physical age and over 10 years younger in mental age, what else could Yalin do besides wryly smile? Maintaining a regular sleep schedule and having a healthy body. Is that something he doesn't know? But the problem is, with only 3 months and 100 million island coins at stake, how could he possibly earn it without pushing himself to the limit? In fact, even now that he holds the script for Cat's Eye Trio and has the system by his side, he's not confident that he can complete this task. Even the best works need time to spread and ferment. 3 months might be enough to make Cat's Eye Trio a hit, but to earn 100 million, in one word, difficult. Of course, wry smile aside, Yalin understood this was Chino's good intention. Even if he felt helpless, he absolutely couldn't be ungrateful. However, there were some things he felt should take this opportunity to say. He had wanted to chat with Chino, and wasn't this the perfect time? Thank you, Chino, for worrying about me so much. First, Yalin thanked Chino, not only for her concern, but also for her care over this period. Even without Chino saying anything, the thought of a child like her caring for a grown man like him would make his face burn. This is incredibly important. My irregular sleep schedule lately, is it because I don't care for my health? There's another reason. Chino, do you like manga? Manga. While thanking Chino, Yalin also planned to explain himself. It was something he had to do sooner or later, and he felt it was better to do it sooner rather than later. But from Chino's perspective, it was strange. Why the sudden mention of manga? Manga? What possible connection could it have with an irregular sleep schedule? Right. In preparing to create a manga, so the initial preparation is quite grueling. But once this work is successfully created, I won't have to work so hard. To add credibility, Yalin brought out his previous sketches. Since the script for Cat's Eye Sisters appeared in his mind, all of his drawings have been manga related to Cat's Eye. For example, character designs for the 3 Raisin sisters, the male protagonist, and the various supporting characters. Anyway, these are all things that need to be drawn, so it's good to prepare in advance. That's amazing. Seeing the stack of drawings Yalin produced, Chino could help but gasp in amazement. Though not a frequent manga reader, she was familiar enough with the medium to recognize the level of skill. The sheer volume and quality of his artwork were, in Chino's eyes, already on par with professional manga artists. So Yalin-san, is that amazing? From my observation, the manga industry is poised for a period of rapid growth. The number of manga fans will increase dramatically, and a successful manga will undoubtedly be incredibly lucrative. I'm confident I will create the most popular and successful work. Yalin's following words completely stunned Chino. She never imagined that this boy, only a few years older than herself, harbored such immense ambition. He actually wants to create the most popular and successful work. Regardless of whether he possesses the ability, the sheer ideal, the ambition itself is something beyond the typical boy of his age. What's more, he's already put it into action. Yalin-san, you'll definitely succeed. Yalin's words left Chino silent for a while. Words of blessing, or words of praise? Chino wasn't quite sure, so in the end, that's all she could say. However, she never could have imagined that Yalin's declaration of his ambitions was only the beginning. Chino, assistant. To Chino, what Yalin said next was completely baffling, because she had no idea why she had received this invitation. Yalin wanted to become a manga artist, to create the best possible work. This was his ambition, no doubt, but had nothing to do with Chino. Yalin wanted to involve her, which Chino didn't understand at all. Most importantly, Chino only read manga, she had no idea how to draw it. Being an assistant was simply nonsense. And san, I can't draw manga, and my drawings, I know. I'm not asking you to be my manga assistant, but my life assistant. My schedule is completely irregular. I need someone to take care of my meals, and sometimes I need someone to run errands. Upon hearing Yalin's words, Chino instinctively wanted to refuse. Knowing herself best, Chino believed she had no talent for drawing whatsoever. At least, she felt her own drawings were far from appealing, let alone suitable for manga. But before she could finish speaking, Yalin cut her off. From the start, he never intended for Chino to be his manga assistant. Otherwise, his Cat's Eye sisters had become the Picasso sisters. What he truly needed was Chino's help with daily chores. While it was rather inappropriate for a grown man to ask this of a 13-year-old girl, the fact remained that he needed this pretext. Yes, a pretext given their relationship. Even if he earned 100 million and offered it to help Chino, she wouldn't necessarily accept, unless their relationship had reached a point of complete intimacy. Therefore, he needed to find ways to increase their intimacy. And the live-in helper role served as an excellent excuse. But Yalin had spoken, but Chino hesitated, feeling that she already did much of what a live-in helper would do. After all, she already prepared Yalin's meals and ran errands whenever she had the time. So, was this assistant position truly necessary? Of course, I don't have the money to hire you as an assistant right now, until the manga's successfully created and published. It's all just empty promises. So the live-in helper thing is just a title. Don't overthink it. Li Yalin saw Chino's hesitation. He knew he should seize the moment, take the reins of the conversation, and leave her no room to refuse. In fact, that Chino breathed a sigh of relief after Li Yalin's explanation. Yes, I don't even know if it will succeed. Why am I agonizing over this? Chapter 1005. This is my ventriloquism. In that case, it'll be Yalin-san's life assistant. In Chino's eyes, since it's just an empty promise, there was no need to overthink it. Perhaps it was just a joke from Yalin-san, something that would be forgotten soon enough, and that's precisely what Li Yalin wanted. Li Yalin felt a bridge of communication was missing between him and Chino. Although the system had arranged for them to live under the same roof, to be honest, their relationship could still be described as distant. Now, with this, he could naturally draw closer to Chino. It couldn't be more perfect. Unfortunately, Li Yalin's plan was perfect and Chino had no suspicions. But don't forget, there were more than just two people in the room. No, I disagree! You little... I don't care what you're planning! I absolutely forbid you from getting close to our Chino! Inexplicably, Tiffy, perched on Chino's head, exploded. The usually silent, seemingly decorative rabbit suddenly leaped around the room with a speed no ordinary rabbit could ever match. Not only that, but its ultimate target was Li Yalin's face. If Li Yalin hadn't dodged quickly, he would have been hit for sure. If Tiffy had merely hopped around or even attacked Li Yalin, there wouldn't have been any problem. But Tiffy, incredibly, spoke. Its furious words were impossible to ignore, even though he was prepared, even knowing Tiffy's identity. It's unavoidable. A talking rabbit is cute in an anime, but in reality, it's terrifying. It's not so easy to accept in a short time. It's my ventriloquism! That's right, ventriloquism! While Li Yalin was stunned, Chino panicked. While Li Yalin lived with the Kafuku family, she had been keeping Tiffy under control, making sure it never spoke in front of others. Recently, due to the blow of debt, Tiffy had been very depressed and had no energy for anything else, but now it has recovered and is full of energy again. In Tabby's words, it was deeply distrustful of this suddenly appeared young man, even if he was the child of their family's friend. Wrong. What if he had ill intentions towards their little Chino? Especially at this moment, it couldn't remember Chino's warning at all. Directly speaking in front of Li Yalin, making the scene quite awkward. In a hurry, Chino quickly picked up, raised it high above her head, and came up with an excuse that was hard for anyone to believe. Ventriloquism. It was ventriloquism, alright. But would this work? Looking at Li Yalin's stunned face, both Chino and Tibi looked rather serious. Even Tibi knew it caused trouble, its expression becoming humanly anxious, looking quite amusing. So, would they be able to get away with it? The answer, of course, was no. Li Yalin had known Tebi's identity for a while. His only dilemma now was whether or not to expose the lie. He reasoned that if he exposed the lie, he would have more common ground with Chino in the future. However, the consequence would be Tibi acting completely without restraint. Feigning ignorance would have no immediate repercussions. But it would also squander the chance to get closer to Chino. He needed to make a decision quickly. Two choices, what to do. Taking a deep breath, gazing at the lowly and the Angora rabbit before him, Li Yalin finally raised the corners of his mouth. Chino's grandfather, Mr. Koke's, right? I'm so sorry I haven't been able to greet you properly. In the end, Li Yalin chose to face reality. He simply couldn't pass up this opportunity. You know who I am. Li Yalin's single sentence left both Chino and Tip speechless. Tip in particular was stunned. Only his son and granddaughter knew his true identity. Everyone else believed he was deceased. But why would this kid, who appeared out of nowhere, know his identity? Well, my father was very close friends with Uncle Longhong. Through Uncle Longhong, I learned some things about the Koke's family, such as Chino's grandfather's situation, and the 100 million yen debt. Li Yalin had already prepared his explanation in his mind. It wasn't something he concocted on the spot. He'd anticipated this possibility long ago. After all, Chino had never mentioned the 100 million yen debt, nor had she revealed Tip's identity. To find out all this, there had to be a reason, right? Chino's father was the perfect reason. Since he's missing now anyway, why not pin everything on him? While I really want to help, I can't contact my father either, and I have to support myself. After much thought, I decided to create a manga. If it's successful, maybe we can overcome this together. Logically, Li Yalin shouldn't have said the following, but after scratching his head, he finally decided to explain it this way. In his opinion, it was better to be upfront than to keep hiding it. The sooner he said it, the sooner he could eliminate the awkwardness. Li Yalin's explanation left Chino and Tip speechless. Neither of them expected Li Yalin to know so much about the Kazuhaya family's situation. However, Chino and Tip didn't doubt the truthfulness of his words. If he didn't really know Kazuhaya right, he wouldn't have been able to explain the situation in such detail. Yalin-san, I appreciate your kind intentions, but I still feel that we should repay our own debts. Chino was a clever girl, and from Li Yalin's words, she quickly understood one thing: his desperate efforts were all for her. For the 100 million yen debt of the Koka family. In this situation, it was impossible for Chino not to feel moved. The fact that someone was willing to work so hard for her filled her with a deep sense of happiness. Unfortunately, Chino wasn't a child good at expressing her emotions. Even if she felt happy and moved, she couldn't find the words to express it. Not only that, she had to refuse Li Yalin's kindness. Yes, she was indeed burdened by immense pressure. But she didn't want to shift that burden onto others. Precisely because she knew how heavy that pressure was, she even more desperately didn't want to pass that pain on to others. Especially to this person, whom she had only recently met, but who was working so hard for her. She really didn't want to burden him, so Chino could only steal her heart and refuse Li Yalin. Even though it sounded incredibly heartless, This episode is complete. Welcome to subscribe, turn on the small bell forward, please leave your comments. I will continue to update the content behind.